I'm getting so in my head about this recording, so please bear with me. Hi, my name is Natalie Bianco. I am your host for the Subconscious SLP. Literally, I want to preface me getting in over my head about this episode. It's just another aspect of the subconscious mind. So we're going to begin with a hot start. Why the subconscious mind is important, or we could refer to it as the unconscious mind. I will probably use those interchangeably. The subconscious mind accounts for 90 to 95% of our actions throughout our day. The conscious mind accounts for 5 to 10%. When we're looking at the unconscious mind, we're looking at those autonomic habits, so helping us breathe throughout our day. Remember, we want to have our heartbeat. We also have those ingrained habits that we don't necessarily have access to, that we might not even know exist yet. We also have memory that is so ingrained in our system that we don't consciously think of it. So I've taken a lot of neuroscience classes in undergrad. I specifically specialized in the neuroscience of communication. I love neuroscience. I'm a psych minor. I was in an auditory neuroscience lab. I geeked out over this stuff. I took electives for neuroscience. I loved my neuroanatomy professor. He wrote me a letter of rec. He inspired me to even consider research. Me in the field of research? No. So the subconscious mind, though, is something that I'm continually learning. I think there are still founders that are putting out information. I think it's something that is bringing more light into the healing parts and just healthcare. And that's why I'm 95% of our thoughts we barely have access to. What? That's nuts. And there's this quote too that I want to say. You can only be as successful as your subconscious mind lets you be. We're going to circle back to that. Your conscious mind is what you are aware of, what you're perceiving. These are information that your mind is taking in, whether that be through the senses, whether that be through what you see, what you feel, what you touch. The subconscious mind is kind of in the background, and it contains information of everything that you've ever experienced. Think of the first 7 years of your life. These are the foundational years. Some scientists, and actually I kind of lean this way, the first 3 years of our life are even more foundational because our brain starts off as this, it's like a sponge. It is a blank slate. You have all of these neurons. Thousands, millions, trillions of neurons. I can find the number somewhere, billions. They're just ready. They're ready to make their connections. And so you start off with all of these neurons. Let me introduce to you one of my favorite things in the world, the concept of neuroplasticity. Woo! Neuroplasticity is that idea that neurons that fire together wire together. If you've ever heard of that, that's what this entails. Neuroplasticity. So, when you are young, you have all these neurons, and they're ready to make connections. And so what we see forms as these connections. So when you are modeled habits over and over again, when you are explicitly told things over and over again, when you experience, whether that be positive or negative things over and over again, your brain's going to take that information in. The more repetitive these models, verbally stated actions, experiences, the more frequent they occur, the stronger those neural networks are going to be. And so you're going to have the strongest networks from what you hear the most. Neurons that fire together wire together. During the first 3 periods, and then the first 3 years, and then 7, and it happens over the lifetime. It's just the strongest. The first 3 years, the first 7 years. First 3 years, I would say, is the strongest. We have this process called synaptic pruning. When those neurons that don't make connections, they die off. we start off as this huge sponge, and we slowly start losing neurons that don't make those connections. And that's totally fine. That's what's supposed to happen. But we want to look at what's forming and what's not. And so when we're young, if you've ever heard of like attachment theory, or for example, if thought patterns are coming up and you don't know where they came from, the unconscious mind is taking hold of that. So although we're taking in all of this knowledge, they are going to the subconscious mind. They're going to these habits, these memories that we don't consciously have access to. Think of the consciousness like a stage. You're ready to perform. The unconscious mind is kind of like that pre-programming. That's the director. He has already given the groundwork, already done the playwrights. He's got the groundwork, and this is all based on that pre-programming. What we had during the first 3 to 7 years of our lives. And that's not to say that we can't rewrite those, but I'm just trying to paint this out for you right now. So, the subconscious mind is always in the background. So that foundational, what we were modeled, what we were told, and what we experienced. Hardwired thoughts. These are what people might refer to as like the unchangeable. The thing is, you can tap into the unconscious mind. So I'm going to talk a little bit about neuroscience. Not that I haven't already, but just labeling some of the aspects of the brain, some of the parts of the brain. And I'll probably try to attempt to make another episode for you guys just on neuroanatomy. But here we are now, the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind we could refer to as the reptilian brain. We have the limbic system. And so we have some of the autonomic nervous system. We have like the brainstem that's involved in like, okay, breathing. Let's make sure that we keep that heart rate going. We have some aspects of the amygdala, so our emotions. We have some aspects of the hippocampus, memory, especially long-term memory. Then we have the cortex. We have the frontal cortex, the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, and this is kind of like our personality, our problem solving. And so we can use our prefrontal cortex to consciously tap into our subconscious mind. I'm looking at my notes right now. The frontal brain is important for thinking, personality, attention. We can use our selective attention to kind of hone in on different aspects of what we're taking in. Our prefrontal cortex has some influence on the memories that we think of. And that is including self-doubt, memory, interest, personality. It's what I would kind of say is some of the closest to accessing those subconscious beliefs that we want to tap into. And so the way that we could do that is taking inventory of our patterns. And so I'm going to use the example of a friend I have. She is making a lot of money, but when she was younger, her family didn't have a ton of money. And so her father would try to save. He would be very conscious of money. He wouldn't let like the daughter spend a lot. And so that's something that my friend has always taken like action towards. She's always been very aware of how she spends money, where she puts money. And that's showing up in her adulthood, despite her making probably double what her father made. She is saving. She's very hesitant to spend money on clothes or just like live in another location. She's nervous about rents. And the thing is, that's because these traits were modeled at such a young age for her. She was explicitly told that money is something that we need to worry about. And so now at the age she's worried about it, but she has thousands of dollars saved up because she's afraid of money. Think of attachment styles. So you have an anxiously attached child. This is a child that is afraid when their parents leave. They might not trust other adults. They're clingy. They always want to hang on. And this can be shown too through how the mother interacted with the child. And again, this is something that will show up as we get older. I know too, seeing just anxiously attached styles come up, that's going to lead you to be more clingy in relationships. That's going to lead you to maybe be with a partner who's emotionally unavailable. Where I'm getting at is these might not be the most desired of traits. And I think I said this earlier, but the unconscious mind, some of those thoughts are not true. But despite being not true, they still rule, they still dictate what plays out in your life. That pre-programmed mind is kind of like running on autopilot. Like it's going to dictate your movements, how you succeed. Going back to that thought, you can only be as successful as your subconscious mind lets you be. Now, we want to tease apart emotions and fears just from what's actually true. You want to allow yourself to be successful in the world and live an abundant life. You have to tell yourself that. And steps I take to tap into the unconscious mind is recognizing patterns within myself. So looking at the anxiously attached individual, that was me. That's something that I was like, wow, this is something that's reoccurring in my life and it is not desired. It is not what I want. Where did this come from? And so therapy definitely helped, but also taking inventory, always journaling and seeing where the feelings came up, seeing the kind of partners I was with, seeing just like reassessing my childhood. I think reflecting on your childhood and those themes and what you saw as a kid, if you can remember, and just interacting with your parents, what they were like, and even what your parents are like now, maybe they were the same back then. But seeing like, wow, okay, I remember I was very nervous when my mom left. And that was kind of like the first ding, like, wow, I think like I was very anxiously attached to her. And again, like that could show out. I know I was very nervous about getting a B. I know there's a lot of perfectionists in the field, whether that be SLPs or PTs, OTs, whatnot. We might be afraid to get a B. And that's because when I was younger, I would definitely get bombarded when I didn't get straight A's. And I put so much emphasis on where I was. Like, I put so much emphasis on how I would succeed and who I was on my academic success, on if I got an A. And that's something too that as I work with the childhood population, as I handle the childhood population, I think that's something I want to get back to. I want to circle back to that, but I don't want to be that clinician that's like, we have to do this. Like, I want to empower the kid and want to instill that intrinsic motivation of why we're doing this versus like, you have to do this to succeed. Like, I want them to feel like, okay, so we're targeting following directions. So like, I will follow directions in the classroom, or like follow directions in a game I like, or we're targeting, for example, like the R and S, so they can like feel confident when they're talking in the classroom. Not that they're bad, but just like giving them that motivation. I'll also even use affirmations, like words of affirmations as targets, just so kids can say like, oh, for example, like if we're targeting L in the initial position of words, I am love and light. Or if we're doing like R in the initial position, like I am respected or I am respectful. There's so many options that like I can also do. Like, I'm so excited to make word lists for affirmations. But going off that, I think for me, while I'm working in childcare, I think it's imperative to help kids use their strengths and find their strengths and see like, I'm creative, like I love writing, like that's awesome. Or if they love drawing, like, okay, like I'm going to have you take the interactive whiteboard and I want you to draw out because I love seeing you draw. I want to empower students to do what they like and see that even though we are working towards like Common Core standards, we are working on like academic domains, I really want them to see that I want them to come to speech and be excited and to feel invigorated and to know like what we're working on can be fun. I want them to feel confident in their making their goals. And so when we are doing therapy, I really like emphasizing like giving constructive criticism, but always ending on like, I really like how you tried that, or ending in a strength, being like, if there's another target sound in the word, saying, I like how you said that S though. Just seeing or giving them that sense of like, I did work hard in this speech session. I am a hard worker. I do well. And telling them like, be proud of yourself because I know this isn't easy. Oh, I'm such a talker. Like, I hope like, even though these aren't the most structured of discussions, I hope that you are like feeling invigorated and taking notes. I never thought about the subconscious mind and how words that I say or phrasing can really dictate like how a kid might leave the session. Going back to the subconscious mind too, rewiring. I think I can make a whole episode on rewiring, but I do want to make it brief for this one. How we can do this as a clinician. I think going back to that example of like, we always wanted to get A's. Like, that was ingrained by like how we saw ourselves, how we saw grades, how they had such an impact on us. And so what we can do is we could start telling ourselves like, I am a successful SLP, I am a successful PT, I am a successful clinician, like I inspire others, I always have energetic and invigorated speech sessions. And just like showing the kid and showing yourself too, like saying what went right and what went wrong in a session and what you wish you did differently. Sometimes like not over analyzing it, but just being like, wow, I wish I kind of empowered that kid more, like gave feedback differently. So again, the subconscious mind, even though like we can track our patterns, what we have to do is then rewrite them. So if we're constantly bombarding ourselves over being one way, we need to focus on what we want. So going back to that example about my friend being bad at money, she can tell herself every day, like in the morning or throughout her day or whenever she's nervous, I am great with money. For people who might be in anxiously attached relationships, they can say, I love myself. I am secure in relationships. And the thing is, the more that we tell ourselves this, the stronger that neural connection gets. I know we said the first 7 years are important, but neuroplasticity occurs throughout our lifespan. So that's why we're able to heal in certain areas of our life still, despite our age. And it does get hard with age, but that's not to say we can't do it. And so think about like learning a language, why it's so easy when we're young, but when we get older, it's harder. That's similar to the subconscious mind and rewiring those thought patterns. So what we can tell ourselves, our brain's going to start looking for opportunities to excel in those areas. So if I tell myself I want to be a billionaire, I'm a billionaire, I'm good with money, I'm confident with money, I'm going to start using money with greater confidence. It's very woo-woo, but the more we tell ourselves one thing, the more it's going to show up in our lives. And so I remember too, when I was a little not as confident as a clinician, I would tell myself, I'm an excellent clinician. Like, I have great speech sessions. My kids are always excited to come to speech. And they do. I love speech. I love my job. And that's something too that you can do in any area of your life. You could come up with your words of affirmation to excel in whatever you want to do. And I know it sounds silly, but again, the more you tell yourself something, or like, it's like instilling a habit. If you do a habit consistently for 21 days, you're more likely to continue it after. We're using our conscious mind in an effective way to try to reprogram our subconscious mind. Something that you could do too is attach feeling to that thought of I'm a billionaire. Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of the many people that I'll probably reference when we're talking about the subconscious mind and just in general in this podcast, thoughts become feelings, feelings become actions, and actions become results. And so, again, that subconscious mind, if that's driving that thought, if we think I'm not a good speech therapist, or like if you had like I'm not good at school, those become feelings. So you're going to get a little more anxious to do school. You're not going to want to participate in school. It's going to affect your feelings, which in turn affect your actions, because you might not want to put yourself forward. You might not have any kind of resilience or bounce back if you do get a negative grade. And then once again, that becomes our results. That becomes our outcome. So you're not going to take that action. You're not going to get the result that you want. And so why we want to change our thought process and tell ourselves, like, I'm a billionaire, I'm a great speech therapist, it's because the more we tell ourselves, and even forcing that feeling, like I will force myself to smile during this, thoughts become feelings. I'm excited for my speech session. And so having that energetic feeling, or showing up to my speech therapist ready to empower a child, becomes my action, and then results is that successful speech session. And so another example, when my friend is thinking like I'm good with money, like money comes easy to me, that becomes feeling. So she's going to feel more confident in spending money in ways that she wants to, or she's going to be excited to use money because she knows that she handles money well. That in turn I kind of said that with the feeling, with the action, but that action of being well with money and managing money well then becomes her results. So taking little actions to like save money but still spend it, it's going to show you that you're able to handle that money, like that initial thought told you. Or like for me, I am a great speech therapist. That result of having a great session just shows that I'm a great speech therapist. And this is something that you can do in your session in every area of your life, but that's something too that I want to instill in our children and our clients, even our adult clients who might not have the best outlook when it comes to therapy, when it comes to healing. Those thoughts of I'm able to heal will become feelings. You're going to get that sense of resilience and tackle each session with a positive mindset. And then having that, taking that initiative to actually participate in speech and want to take that will then show actions and results. It will then show that results of like, wow, I am able to do this. So the more that we push these positive neural networks, the more that's going to be ingrained in our subconscious mind. The more that those processes are going to take over those negative ones. Think about, again, that habit of 21 days. That habit's going to stick because you're going to see those positive results and your brain is going to want to do it more. Sometimes like I think about like if I like wake up early, like every day for work, like I wake up 2 hours before a session, I get my workouts in, like that's going to stick for me. Why this is important, it's going to dictate our sessions, it's going to dictate how we feel. And for me, the subconscious mind is something that I hope to instill in you. You find interest in, and I continue to learn about so I can pump out this information for you guys. I think the frontal lobe, that prefrontal cortex, we can use to our advantage to help seek opportunities, to use our selective attention to bring out our desired results, that we could tap into the memories that we want to. That we can like continue to show our best, most confident self, use our personality to shine in our speech sessions, to shine in any area of our life. So again, I'm going to end with my two quotes. 90 to 95% of our actions throughout our day are our subconscious mind. 5 to 10% is our conscious mind. So that's why it's so powerful for us to work on these skills and instill that in our students. And then you can only be as successful as your subconscious mind lets you be. At pre-programming is always in the background, so you might as well make a good one. And that's why, too, as a speech therapist, I want to empower my students, especially the younger ones, and show them that it's okay to mess up. We are resilient. You are needed. This is a safe space, and you are important, and I love having you in my sessions. And so that's why I think the subconscious SLP, when I found that bridge, this is what was meant for me. And I'm so excited to continue to put out information that will empower not only clinicians, but also students, caregivers, teachers, sped coordinators. I hope you enjoy this and appreciate this journey that we'll both be on. All right, so thank you for listening to the Subconscious SLP. I will see you next week.